Welcome to the Pantheon podcast. I am your host, your boy Hercules, and joining me today is a person I've been talking about for quite a few weeks now, since we talked about the inception of the Pantheon podcast. He is the blonde Adonis, I shall call him, and since we're going with the theme of Greek gods and the Pantheon, he is your boy Helios. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Well, let me scoot over a little bit, give my co-host some screen room here. That's us, your boy Hercules, your boy Helios. And today's subject, if you're reading the title of the video, is, of course, cancel culture. Now, how would you define cancel culture, my friend?
I'd say cancel culture is when a group of people find something about somebody, whether it is valid or not, that they don't like, and they push somebody to the point of their career being unsavable, I'd say.
I can agree with that. Now, today we're going to be talking about a few already occurred occurrences, which sounds redundant, of cancel culture in action, whether it's good, bad, unnecessary, so on and so forth. So, first and foremost, the most recent, and we're going to go from bad to good because we don't want to slander any good YouTubers for false cases of cancel culture. And that would be, first and foremost, the most recent one is EDP445. Now, if you don't know who EDP445 is, he was, I guess, a questionably funny YouTuber who just kind of pissed in the wind, sort of. Just said whatever he wanted. Was kind of outlandish, kind of funny at the time. But we're gonna try our best to summarize what happened. So, another YouTuber who was, I guess, exposing, what's the word for it? Pedophiles? Or, like, people just, sexting minors.
Yeah, definitely say pedophiles.
Posed as a 13-year-old to, try to out EDP. Because I think there was a previous case where he was accused of something like that, but nobody had any proof, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he was called out before from a few people of messaging minors and trying to solicit pictures from minors.
Yeah, so this person, acted as a 13-year-old, texted EDP, saved the screenshots of it, and the messages were, and you won't see them on screen because this is a live stream, these will be recorded in the future, mind you, but to the point, there were some questionable messages sent about, what do you want to do to me, so on and so forth. I'm not going to get into detail about that, verbatim. And, there was a weird case where he kind of just, sent the guy posing at 13 a picture of his fecal matter.
Yes, multiple pictures.
Nudes,
everything. And this is to also say predator poachers were the ones that went after EDP are also horrible people. Just because they did do one positive thing by calling out this YouTuber for just doing this heinous shit, does not mean that they themselves are good. They've still been called out for horrible things, a lot of racist things, and just as of recently, the main guy from Predator Poachers was called out for doing the exact same thing that he just called EDP out for.
Oh, man. Whew. I actually didn't know about the part, so thank you for letting them know about that.
Yeah, both of their channels right now should be shut down. EDPs were shut down before Predator Poachers, but Predator Poachers were just shut down because of the exact same thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I do think part of this we didn't talk about. I think we did cover this, though, is also stan culture. So in the same breath of cancel culture, like stans.
Oh, yeah.
So I did see people defending EDP, in lieu of everything that happened. And speaking of the situation, a little more on less about those details. He tried to fist bump, one of the Predator Poachers and everything. Said he wanted to get, he was there for a cupcake.
Yeah, he was there for a cupcake.
He was how far away? He was from one town, went the whole way there for a cupcake. I'm
drove over an hour.
That must have been one great cupcake, man. I'm joking aside. But the EDP 445 is probably the biggest case we have on us right now. It's the first one we felt we needed to cover as a good case of cancel culture coming to, actually save the day or bring attention to something like that.
In a very peculiar case, too. Just the entire interaction, if you have seen the video, which do encourage you to watch, even though it is extremely cringy through the entire thing. Just EDP himself basically admitting to everything with no resistance whatsoever. And then Predator Poachers almost agreeing with him in some aspects. Like, you'll get him talking about how he finds some girls that are underage attractive, even though he wouldn't act on them, but they are still attractive, which is like...
Dude, that's not any better.
Why would you say... Like, could you imagine,
Yeah.
like, Chris Hansen coming on being like, what were you planning to do today, Jeffrey? Yeah, I thought that 16-year-old was hot too, but I wouldn't come here.
Yeah, that's exactly
like, what the hell?
Bro. But yeah, and then EDP like had a fit. He was like crying when they were threatening to call the police on him. He was like, "Do you know you're doing this?"
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the police actually came out a few weeks ago and said that because of the terrible job that predator poachers have done, they can't use any of that in their investigation.
Yeah.
Because of just how they completely botched the entire investigation with interfering like that.
I think actual authorities have to be the ones that do some sort of investigation like that.
Not even that, it's that the authorities actually have to be the ones that message these people as underage children.
Oh.
Like, you cannot yourself pretend to be an underage kid and honeypot these people into doing this.
Yeah.
Because it muddies up all the evidence.
Yeah.
And especially when they admit to something like that, in this muddied evidence, it's almost unusable.
Now, for those EDP 445 defenders out there who are taking this in the light, that's like, oh, well, the police aren't actually the ones who did it. You know, he did no wrong. There was a group of other YouTubers who did this. That doesn't excuse it. He did not know that it was not a 13-year-old girl. So, mind you, he thought it was a 13-year-old girl he was sexting, you know, sending nudes and pictures of his fecal matter to, which is, how does that turn anybody on? No, never mind.
Speak for yourself.
Speak for yourself. But yeah, like, yeah, there's no excusing that kind of behavior at all. Now, on the same breath, I was going to mention a different YouTuber next, but this one's kind of in the same slew of that. James Charles has been called out a few times for sending, you know, questionable content to several male minors over the past couple months, and that's why he hasn't been uploading recently.
Yeah, he also admitted to doing something like that multiple times, where he'd be called out for it, and he'd apologize and be like, "This, I know, I'm sorry, I should be doing this." He continues to do it, where he uses his own platform as a way of, I don't know, he's using his, like, Instagram as, like, a dating platform. And he has sort of a power dynamic in being in the place that he is and talking to his fans, and especially when he's messaging minors, and then again coming out for it. But at this point, his career is almost dead in the water, because he's still able to upload, but none of it can ever be monetized.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So he will never be able to make money off of his platform again.
Right.
And again, it's because he's been given multiple chances where he's been caught out for this. I think this is like his third or fourth time caught out for this, and now he is finally getting
reprimanded.
Yeah, the actual reprimandation.
Yeah, I do think the first few times, not a lot of people believe him because he somehow was able to shut it down, like shut down the accusations or like come up with excuses, like oh, their age wasn't in their bio, or you know, this is doctored evidence or doctored photos. But you know, once more than one or two accusations come out, I'm not saying like it should take that many for somebody to believe something like that. Like, I'm usually on the side of believe the victim first, but there's always like wait for more proof to come out.
Absolutely.
So like the first two times I was skeptical, but once like the third and fourth accusations come out, I was like, oh, yeah, no, I definitely see there's something up with this now.
And it's especially like if you get called out for talking to somebody that you didn't think it was a minor, and that comes across that, oh geez, like finding out however long that it was. You get called out for that, and they give you a saving grace where you're able to continue doing whatever you're doing. And then you do the exact same thing again. You can't use that excuse. Like, if you didn't ask the first time what their age was, and then you found out that they were minors, wouldn't you think that, like, the next person you're talking to, one of the first questions is going to be, hey, how old are you? Like,
hey, age check.
For real.
I mean, man.
One question, that's all it takes.
You know, I'm glad you brought up the power dynamic of being a social media influencer, because it seems like as the years go by, there are more and more YouTubers that get called out for doing things like this all the time.
All the time. Yeah, it is, and it's kind of messed up, because like on one hand, like you could find an actual relationship.
Yeah.
But most times out of not, it's somebody who's, if you are in a place where you have all the power in that aspect. If someone's messaging you as a huge fan, like, you already basically have them, and to abuse that and make them do things that they're either not uncomfortable, or that they are either uncomfortable with or not, just because you're in that position is messed up.
Of course.
Because they're people you're just taking advantage of, and it could be someone that literally just wants to get your attention and just wants to have an actual conversation with you, and you just want to push it to whatever way that you can benefit personally.
Yeah. Now, I feel like these worst case scenarios always end up being the same, because I know the next person was James Charles. Or no, not James. We just talked about James Charles. I'm trying to remember who it was. Call Me Carson. There it is. This one's like not very recent. It happened in January. So I remember he made a tweet before it all happens, like, oh, 2021 is going to be a great year. And then he got called out for, he was 18 or 19 at the time, and the person he was talking to was 17 at the time, if I remember correctly. And they were having, like, sexual text messaging each other through Discord. And he said, like, oh, you know, I'm feeling some type of... I'm not going to say it verbatim, because I know there might be a younger audience watching this eventually. Or content isn't made for kids, mind you. But he said something along the lines of, like, I'm feeling down bad right now, you know, could you send me some pictures? Now, the defenders of Call Me Carson said, you know, it's only a 2-year age gap. That's like being in high school. Somebody's 19, they're 17, but you're still in senior year. Okay, here's where I'm going to put a stop to that. Here's where I'm going to draw the line. They were the same age, and I do believe they were sexting each other, or he wanted her to sext him. That is still a minor. Unless you're 18, it is still against the law to sext or send sexual content or have any sort of sexual relationship with a minor in that regard. So,
yeah, the only thing that I'm aware of with that aspect is where you're pretty much, the only way that wouldn't happen is when you're grandfathered in a relationship, as if, like, you two are dating as, like, you're 16 and she's 15 or she's 14.
Yeah.
And then you guys are still dating to the point of, like, when you hit that age limit.
Yeah.
That is when you're not going to be...
chastised.
Yeah, in trouble with the law in that aspect, because you have been together before both of you reached that point of where it's illegal to be doing what you're doing.
Right.
So, like, in that aspect, he would be fine, but since he was talking to her after this time period,
yeah,
and it kind of can't really save you as much.
No, it really can't. Now, those are very three similar cases. So, for those of you who do tune into this now or later, I know it might seem like we're pandering to specific scenarios. It seems like those are the only bad ones. But let's take into account the Hatworks Nashville account, which I wasn't going to bring up in this podcast, but for the sake of a bit of content diversity for this live stream, for this podcast episode, let's cover that for a minute. Okay, so here's the deal, and I didn't feed your boy Helios too much information. I also just kind of gloss over like 5 minutes before we started this. So, this hat company in Nashville, Tennessee was giving out anti-vaxxer. Bless you.
Oh, jeez.
No problem. Bless you.
There we go. Holy cow.
But this Nashville, Tennessee hat company was giving out like anti-vaccination pins, which was like yellow stars of David, and I don't completely understand the anti-Semitism behind it, but I do understand to the point that it is anti-Semitic to do something like that.
Yeah, it's weird. Like from that picture that you showed me, it literally looks like the Stars of David that the Nazis would put on Jews during the Holocaust. Like, that is exactly what it looks like. It just, in the middle, it just says like not vaccinated.
Yeah.
So it's really weird. Like, especially if they're trying to push it from like a pro anti-vax.
Yeah.
Like, why would they make it in such a design like that? Like, that's so weird.
Yeah, that's both like ignorance to historical events and would it be cultural appropriation? I think it would be.
I'm not even sure, like, because like in that aspect, like when those stars were created in World War II, that was looked at as like a negative connotation.
Yeah.
So that's what's confusing to me, is that if you're trying to have it as a pro symbol, but yet it's inherently negative because of like how it looks. Like you think that would be self-insulting.
Yeah,
like
I think so.
I'm just like, unless they're saying they feel like they are as like imprisoned Jews in the Holocaust because they're not vaccinated.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, this is a very tasteless way to go.
Yeah, right.
About that.
Man.
Holy cow!
But moving on from the Hatworks company, which I almost misnamed before we started this podcast, which I mean, kind of would be just another added insult to them anyway. We're moving on to Shane Dawson. I know this is old news, but it does fall into the bad category, and we do have to at least cover these to make the comparisons on why cancel culture is both good and bad, and the in-betweens. So Shane Dawson, oh boy.
Yeah, where do you start?
Pack your lunch, sit on a bench, go do your shift, take your break. We're gonna be here for a minute talking about what he's done. First and foremost, friends with Jeffree Star. We're gonna leave it at that because for legal reasons. Because if this ever comes across the Jeffree Star, there might be a problem. Knowing the history I've seen with other YouTubers calling him out on YouTube. So, if you come across this now or 10 years from now, I said nothing because we already know enough about that, I'm sure. But
yeah, we don't need to speculate when we already have all the facts here.
But Shane Dawson, to give you all a roundup on Shane Dawson, if you don't remember, Shane Dawson made weird sexual jokes about finishing on his cat, and we'll put it that way for the younger, more innocent audience if they see this.
That was so strange. Like, I remember hearing about that, and I'm just like, what the hell? Like, that has to be a joke. And then you watch the video, and like, this man
spreads his cat's legs or something.
He's talking about it like he's remembering, not like he's fabricating a story for a joke.
Yeah.
And there's no punchline. It's just like
it's
like
just there.
He just like sets it down, and then everybody's like nervous laughing when he's talking about it because he's like going into like weird detail.
Oh yeah.
It's like
yeah.
What the hell? But across from that, he's had a plethora of racist jokes, insensitive jokes, cultural jokes, which, in one aspect, yeah, like, a joke is a joke, but some of the ones that he's done, especially where he wears blackface.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't know. It's just a little uncomfy for me, personally.
I'd have to agree with that. Is a little uncomfy. On the same breadth of other things he's done, too. The whole Willow Smith video controversy, where he was, how do I put this? Sexualizing Willow Smith, who at the time was, what, 9, 10, somewhere around her...
I think she was, like, 12 years old.
Yeah, and he was, like he was, how do I put this? He was mimicking the act of getting oneself off to an image of Willow Smith, who was 12 at the time, as your boy Helio says. So that's, I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back, because I think Jaden Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith's wife, actually like called him out, and then he actually like went away.
Yeah, he went into hiding for a little bit, and then came back out, and then all this stuff as of recently with all the makeup drama is what spurred it all back and basically just completely destroyed his career.
Yeah.
Because when he'd be called out for stuff like his racism or blackface, he would semi-apologize for it, go into hiding for about a month, come back out, and just continue doing what he's doing.
Yeah. Until
something other controversial happens, and he just keeps doing the same thing. But with this one with Jaden Smith, it's literally a poster of her when she made the song, I Whip My Hair Back and Forth.
Yeah.
And I think that was made in like 2013.
I think so, yeah.
Like, she was young, and he's there just doing that act, and it's just so uncomfortable to watch. Like, it's not comical, it's just uncomfortable.
It is very uncomfortable.
Yeah, her mom went off on him and started blowing him up. That's what made people start to look into his older videos, and then the stuff with his weird cat fetish and then the blackface and racism all just came out all at once and just toppled his career.
It did. Now, those are the bads. I think those are the only bads we could really recall from recent memory. Let's move on to, the good cases of cancel culture coming to actually do good. Or more or less the worst cases of cancel culture. So we'll go to the more soft side of cancel culture cases, which we'll first and foremost touch upon Jacksepticeye, which, if you're fans of him, I think 26 million strong at this point.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. There was a point where PS5s were starting to come out, and I think they're even still now hard to come by because of just people buying them in bulk and, like, selling them by themselves, which is a weird practice. But that aside, there was a point where he made a tweet about, imagine not having a PlayStation 5 or something of that sort, where the context wasn't, he said this in a video literally titled, "I Got Canceled on Twitter." He bought himself one when he was able to, without knowing that he was being sent a second one by either a friend or Sony themselves. And with his past history of charity events, being a good person, the community he's built, people still didn't take it as, like, the joke that it actually was, and they still wanted to try to cancel him for it, and, like, just get him off the platform because he was poor shaming. So, I mean, what do you have to add to that?
I was gonna say, straight just hearing the story, not even knowing that he himself has a PlayStation and then had been shipped one, I already just assumed it was a joke. Just knowing how scarce it is right now to buy any next-gen console, especially PlayStation. I already took that as a joke of, like, imagine not having a PlayStation, because it's extremely hard to get. It's like, imagine not having 24,000 diamonds in your house. And not everybody has that unless you're a multimillionaire. So I would have definitely taken it as a joke, and then knowing that he got those just further solidified my position as this is a joke.
Yeah.
And that definitely gets to the point of where cancel culture can be extremely toxic. Where, like, there are people who are out wanting to find people's misdoings, and then there are people that are out there that are looking for something to find to be angry about.
Yeah.
Where they're almost looking for someone just to slip up, to type the wrong word, just to misspell something so they can just go off. In almost any YouTube comment section you can find, you can say one thing and someone's going to argue about you. Like, say your favorite color. I bet you there's going to be somebody in the comments yelling at you that you're wrong. And there's always going to be conflict, especially with anonymity that comes with the internet.
Oh, absolutely. And in the same regard, Crank Gameplay's Ethan Nestor is his full name. Co-host of Unis Honest, good friend of Markiplier's. I edited for Markiplier for a while. For those of you who don't know him, he's about, like, 2 million subscribers, I think, at this point. Good for him. He was on, I think, somebody else's podcast, and they were talking about something about Halloween, and somebody brought the subject up of people still dressing as, like, now I'll put this bluntly, Klan members, with a K, not a C, Klan members. And he made the comment, like, that takes balls, it takes some sort of balls to do that. And people took it as in, like, oh, so he respects that. No, he actually, if you knew Crank Gameplays, he was, like, a pretty humanitarian person. And the context was, like, that would take balls to do that in a very progressive society where that would never be okay anymore.
Yeah.
So people want the same thing with what you said. It's like people try to find any reason just to misconstrue anything he said and just take it over the top.
Especially when it's somebody that they don't like.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like there are people who, like, someone that they do like can say something important, and they either defend them to the end, or admit when they've done something wrong. But there are other people who are just seeking for something. For someone that they like to slip up just once, where they can try and pull them down to the very lowest. And I don't know, that's a very toxic way of living your life. So I don't know how you can personally even find happiness when you're just trying to find anger.
Yeah, of course. I mean, in my younger years, I kind of was like that, and I completely, sympathize with that. It's like, being angry all the time is not worth the effort, not worth the time of just, like, arguing with somebody over a computer on a web form or anything like that. It's not worth the time to try to cancel somebody over one misstep.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, KSI, LGBT, I can't remember how to pronounce his name, and I apologize for that if I butcher it. He did make a transphobic remark at one point or another. I can't remember the full story of that, but it was worth mentioning. That is a gray area for cancel culture. It was a remark that shouldn't have been made due to the progressiveness of society as it is now. I do believe he apologized for it. If not, then that's a different story. But the whole thing with cancel culture, and I was going to bring this up later, but bring it up now since I'm already segueing to it, is that once you're canceled, it does seem to be the case that you can't really come back or recover from it. And I think you did mention that earlier.
No, I don't think there is a way to come back from it, honestly. Like, it's... if there is a way to come back from it, it is very rare. And, even, not even to get onto a politics level, but even when you saw the massive cancellation of Donald Trump, where almost every single platform took him off. It was Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all that, where he can't post or anything on that. He made his own website and stuff like that, his own blog, and he's dropped to 10% of what interaction and viewing that he was getting when he was posting on Twitter. So even a previous president of the United States cannot come back from cancel culture. So that's either something terrifying or something a little uplifting, because either the people that do horrendous and heinous stuff can't ever recuperate from that. But that also means people who can be canceled for something that either is insignificant or something that was a complete misunderstanding can have their entire lives ruined forever because of a mistake.
Absolutely.
That almost makes me think back to Toby Games.
Oh, yeah.
Where he had so many allegations of him doing drugs or something like that. His entire platform fell up into pieces, and then it came out 2 months after that the allegations were all lies. And the damage was done. His channel is not the same, and he isn't the same person anymore, because he was just crushed by all the legal matters, people probably threatening him, all his subs just losing it and just ditching him like that. It can definitely be extremely impactful to people who deserve it and to those that don't.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned him, because actually his canceling was so bad that you mentioned bringing him up. Actually, I remember he existed for a minute.
Yeah.
Dude, that's bad.
And that's how bad it was that, I remember he was, one of the top 3 YouTubers on the entire platform.
He was.
And now he's, a whisper in the wind. If you, I think you'd look at his channel, he probably only has, 1 million subscribers. And I think he was at, close to 50 or so. He was rivaling PewDiePie. It was him, Markiplier, and Toby Games.
Yeah.
That were the top 3. And
yeah.
Now look at him. It's sad.
Yeah, that's one of the cases of cancel culture where it's he says, she says, and things tend to happen that way, where even if it's proven false, people just want to jump the train of oh, well, it's got to be true if this person said it, so.
Absolutely. Well, I know that there are a lot of people who want to do the right thing.
Right.
And there are a lot of people who want justice in the world. So when they hear something about, someone who has a lot of power like that doing something that's really messed up, they want to take charge. But that's when a lot of people hear a little bit of a story, not the entire thing, or the entire thing can just be made up, and they act upon what they think is in the best interest of everybody.
Right.
Which could be in the right situation, but could be the exact opposite in another situation.
Right. Taking away from YouTubers for a minute, even though we did mention the whole Nashville hat thing, we must be talking about YouTubers. Let's talk about movie directors or movie producers, such as James Gunn, the director of the Guardian of the Galaxy franchise, or the part of the Marvel Universe that touches upon that cinematic aspect. So first and foremost, I do believe this is how it went. He was directing the second movie at the time, I think. That's what I told you. And someone dug through his old tweets, from back to 2015, maybe 2-3 years ago, where he made it. I don't think it was a racially charged tweet. It was just a tweet that wouldn't fit in today's standards. And it was years ago, and they brought it up, and he ended up losing like his place in Marvel for a bit, where he couldn't produce that movie. And for me, that just felt like a case of, he changed. Of course, he bettered himself since then. If he was able to, for that to be completely forgotten about, to somebody just like dug it up from the grave and just brought it back up again anyway. That's a case of like. That's the whole thing of cancel culture. Like people can't understand that the person you were before has changed into who you are now, and the person you are now can't change in the future if what you did wasn't rightfully cancelable enough. Like, if you say a racist thing and you've been known for doing that before, okay, that's one case. But if you made an unintentionally racially charged statement, which somebody left a like on the video. Thank you on the live stream. These are going to be recorded from now on, like I said, but thank you for leaving a like on the video. Appreciate that. The thing is, like, if you accidentally say something, because times are changing and certain things become slurs over time, or people decide they become slurs. It's not up to us to decide if they become those or not. It's up to that community themselves. So me being a straight cisgender, I believe it means like I was born male. I conformed to the identity of a male, and that's just and heterosexual male. Like, I just fit in the standard basic white boy community. I think we both do. So like, it's not up to me or your boy Helios to decide what different communities deem as a slur, and it's not to any other white person or any other like part of a community that isn't that exact community decide what is or isn't a slur. So what I'm getting at is, like, if you accidentally say something during these progressive times where you didn't know it was a bad thing to say because of the lack of education on it growing up, or from the environment you're in, I don't think that's a permanently cancelable thing to just be canceled over. Like, if you made a mistake and say, I'm sorry, and actually mean it, and don't, like, do the whole blame thing that I've seen some YouTubers do, where it's like, oh, but da-da-da-da-da, this and that. Just, like, own up to him, like, I'm sorry, I made a severe, continuous lapse of my judgment, Logan Paul. Speaking of which, yeah, that's another case of him rightfully getting canceled, but he did recover, somehow. That's actually a case of somebody actually recovering from cancel culture to a point. But point being, that was one of the bad cases where it was rightfully done, because the whole Suicide Forest thing. Yeah, pretty much that was the whole point I was getting at, is like, just own up to the apology. Like, if you did something bad, apologize. If it's been something that's been part of your modem operandi, your MO, or whatever it is, that's the long version of it. It's like part of what you do on the regular, then yeah, you're going to get canceled for that, and you deserve it if you're just that much of an ignorant person overall. But, like, if you're not, and that was a one-off mistake, then okay, that's fine. Then, an apology should be necessary there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think especially when it comes to people pulling up tweets and posts from years ago, I think a lot of people forget, like, just how much time is in a year. Like, you yourself can change drastically in 365 days, let alone multiple years. Like, I know I'm a completely different person than I was when I was 14, 15, 16.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like even 3 years ago, I know I'm a different person.
Yeah.
So, to take something that people said when they were kids, or they were, young adults, I'm not sure if holding that against them in this severe of a connotation is warranted.
Right.
Like, I can definitely understand, like, you bringing up, like, hey, you said this type of stuff when you were in 15, 16, 17. Do you still stand by that?
Yeah.
And then the person says, like, oh, no, absolutely, I'm completely against that, I've changed, yada, yada. That's what I do think you should give them a chance. Now, if they say they changed, and then immediately come out and say the exact same thing, then, that's when things can be properly taken care of. But
oh yeah, definitely.
I think when something like, you posted a meme back in 2015, I think you should lose your job at Nike for it. I think that's a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people need to learn, because stuff like that, like, people are just unaware. Like, a lot of stuff like saying, like, oh, they're from, like, the other side of the tracks is actually an offensive statement towards Native Americans. But if you have no idea about that, and that's just a saying that you've grown up with, like your parents, teachers, someone in your community says it a lot, and that's just something you pick up on, if you're walking around and you say that and you offend somebody, you could just be completely unaware.
Yeah.
and be saying things that are hurting people you just don't know. Like, I don't think that you should be thrown to the wolves because of an accident.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up because being partially Native American myself, I didn't even know the other side of track was like a derogatory statement or like an insult to Native Americans. So like that's educating me and that's educating other people who didn't know. But like yeah, I agree with what you said. There were other topics we were supposed to talk about on this. Gabby Hannah, one of the cases of the bad that we did not talk about. We missed that one. Okay, so the thing with Gabby Hannah, this is more of another morally gray area. She came out with a poetry book, and to put it bluntly, some of her poetry wasn't that great. I think it was like time is relative, something else is relative, family is relatives, and that was one of the poems. I'm like, that. I mean, I agree with the person who criticized, like, that's not poetry. I mean, technically it's free form, but like that got published.
It's not good.
Well, like that got published. I mean, and the reason why it comes on the cancel culture and why they wanted to cancel Gabby Hannah is because her response to criticism was this: "Oh, you're a narcissistic abuser. You're abusing me." It's like, no, we're just criticizing you for your poetry. We're giving our opinion on your poetry, and you decide to lash out against people for that. That's kind of, if you're going to be an influencer, and this is something I've learned very early on, it's like you have to take criticism on all accounts. Like, you can't just be like, I'm perfect, my stuff's untouchable, and if you don't like it, tough shit.
Absolutely. And especially, like, you have to take criticism, and you have to be able to tell the difference between somebody saying, like, this is a account that was made 10 minutes ago, just so somebody could write, you're terrible, stop what you're doing, you're horrible. There's a difference between that and somebody saying, hey, you could do this, this, and this with your channel. A lot of us agree with it. Or there's somebody who also does what you're into. And they're like, from my experience, you could do better by doing this.
Right.
Being able to take that and actually comprehend that is only going to help you. Even if it's something that you find out 2 weeks later that you don't need, that's still something that you know now. And thinking that everybody trying to say something, even to help you, is just to tear you down or make you feel bad, that's a terrible way of looking at stuff. Because a lot of people aren't like that, especially people who are subscribed to you, that follow you and like you, usually want to see you do better, and usually want to see you become a better creator and more successful. So when you look at people more like a community than an audience, is where you start to actually grow as a person.
Right. And, I'm going to make a little analogy or, like, a bit of a comparison. Like, say you have, not a full-on personal trainer, but, like, a best friend. And this is, like, more of a personal analogy. Like, a best friend is, like, telling you how to lose weight or something like that. Because I remember actually coming to Helios about, after a bad breakup, going to the gym, getting, you introduced me to that gym, getting me in good shape. Yeah, you can thank this guy for getting me where I'm at right now, for the most part. He didn't, like, physically train me and stuff, but him and a friend showed me how to, like, do proper form and all that.
I was about to say, you can't give me much credit at all, because this man put in all the work. Like,
Yeah.
I'd say all I did was just tell the man where to go, and he did just about everything himself.
Yeah.
And he definitely has pushed through a lot.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, for that analogy, it's like, basically me being the Gabby Hannah of the situation, as much as I'd hate to say that. Like, say you were telling me, like, where to go, how to do this lift better, how to have proper form, and, like, I'm like, no, this is garbage. Like, that'd pretty much be the same thing as, like, you want a personal trainer, like, somebody to help you out, or give you criticism on your form or something, and, like, you decide to just be like, no, what I'm doing is perfect, when it gets you absolutely nowhere at all.
Absolutely. And especially, like working out is a great example. Because there are some workouts that work better for some people, and that don't work as well, if not at all, for others. And that can be a mix of, like, their bodies just don't react to it the right way, or that they're literally just not doing the exercise the right way.
Right.
And if it's something like, I'm showing you one way of doing push-ups, and the other person's showing you another way of doing push-ups, if you at least try them both, you can decide for yourself which one you like the best.
Right.
But if you just push everything new away and you never try it, you could be missing out on something that could make you feel something nothing else did. And that can be in anything, if you want, like, games or drawing or writing or exercise. There's always another way of doing something.
Right.
And a lot of people have different ways of thinking, learning, and experience. So taking in as much information that you can would be the best way of making you improve in whatever you do.
No, especially when it comes to criticism. Because, like, if you go my way or the highway, you're not going to get anywhere, period.
No.
It's like someone told me on my own channel, it's like, you could just record these long videos instead of doing a live stream, and, it'd do a lot better because it'd be less, talking to the audience, less distraction. I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. If I would have said no, that person would have probably been driven away because, like, I would have been that too hard-headed to, take anything like that. And that's what Gabby Hannah was doing. So that's the morally gray area. It's like she's kind of her own worst enemy when it comes to that.
Absolutely.
But that's like she shouldn't be canceled for that, but she should be like educated on how to better handle something like that, And okay, there was another person I want to talk about. Corpse Husband, very popular upcoming YouTuber. The voice that he was granted through health issues through GERD, GERD. I think that's like an acid reflux thing, if I remember correctly. But the whole thing with that was like back before he started gaming and everything, he was reading horror stories on his channel, and there was a certain word on there that was a derogatory statement towards the LGBT community, and it was read verbatim from like the script he was sent, I believe, if I remember correctly. And see, that's also kind of a gray area. I mean, yeah, I get it, you're reading word for word to not take away from the story if it was dialogue that somebody said in the story. And I'm not defending the use of the word, period. I'm just saying, like, the way it was done is that he shouldn't have been canceled for it. And he should, the apology he made was both necessary and kind of unnecessary, because, like, if he was given the context for it, other people would have seen the context of it, it wouldn't have been that big of an issue. That is a case of cancel culture where it's kind of hearsay. Like, if you don't look into it, the way I'm describing it right now is kind of like, well, maybe it was a good case where he got called out, but if you look into it without, like, me giving you just the bare minimum, you'd be able to formulate your own opinion on it and get, a better input or better output out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially when it comes to stuff where you're literally just reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's when it gets to the point where cancel culture can be extremely toxic, where people are just looking for something to find to try and cancel. And like that brings me back to the days where you have to read stuff like To Kill a Mockingbird and Of Mice and Men, where they actually have, lines with racism in it.
Yeah.
It's like you can't whitewash that out because that's still a part of that literature.
Right.
And even though it is wrong, like, just because it is old literature doesn't mean that it's correct. But you can't remove everything like that, because then people won't learn and people won't know. And for people to be, trying to destroy someone's career over literally reading something is just insane. That reminds me of when people are, like, when actors have certain lines where they have to say, like, terrible things for a movie. And then people are like, did you see this actor? He said this. It's like, yes, he was literally paid thousands of dollars to say that.
Yeah,
like,
which actor did that? Wasn't it like Leonardo DiCaprio in Django Unchained or something? Yeah, I think it was.
I remember just of recently, who's the guy who's Kylo Ren?
Adam Driver, I think.
Well, he was in a movie recently where he had to be like, I think he was like a racist or something like that. It was something like it was like a racially fueled movie.
Oh, okay.
And a few scenes he has to say the N-word with a hard R. Yeah. And then people are coming after him for it. It's like, he is literally hired to do this. Like, that is like hiring a construction worker to tear down a building. And you're like, what the hell is this dude breaking all these windows for? You hired him to do that.
Yeah. I think that's a different case for, like, movies and media like that. Like, I think there has to be a lot of okaying between... There's probably a lot of PR teams when it comes to, like, what you described. Like, there's got to be PR teams, certain people of color in, like, different racial communities that are, like, they okay that if they're part of that project.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you'd have to run it by them, and if other people get upset by it, like, yeah, I can understand the initial impact of it, but, like, you have to take into account, like, the PR team and everything like that. They wouldn't have him do that just because it would make him happy to be racist, like, as a character. Like, that wouldn't make sense. But, like, in the same breath, like, now if you're eagerly reading, I'm going to read of mice and men on my YouTube channel today just because I get to say that word and I'm white. Now that's a whole different ballgame.
Keep repeating to read page 394.
Yeah, right? It's like, oh, I lost on this page, or like it'd be here. This is not an idea. Nobody ever replicate what I'm about to say, or replicate the idea. It's like somebody rereading of Mice and Men, and they purposely mess up a page, like speedrun. If I mess up a word on a page, I'm gonna reread the whole page, and they get to that page where that racial word's in there, and they get past that word, purposely mess it up, and then do it all over again. And now, don't take this out of context. This is not a joke. Like, this is not us saying to do that. This is us, like, there's a case of the way he described it, and me, like, going on to the Wild West scenario where somebody's just going to be an absolute a-hole.
Degenerate with it.
Yeah, a degenerate, and just do something like that. Like, there's two different sides to that, of course. Now, what else we're going to talk about? There's a lot more we could have said about this. Oh, hey, it's a 45-minute mark. Sweet. All right, cool. Great podcast so far. Hi, if anybody's watching this. But, yeah, no, that's... So, I guess since this is kind of a shorter one, we're going to cut this off in an hour, I guess. You think it's okay? Yeah, should be good.
Sounds pretty good.
Should be good. These ones will be recorded in the future, so we might have more content, more editing, memes, something. Once I learn how to edit better, I might send stuff his way if I'm able to, if he wants to. You know, we can work on this together. But, so final verdict. Is cancel culture good or bad? Well, we have 15 minutes. Let's talk about it. Or we have already talked about it. Let's summarize. EDP, James Charles, Shane Dawson, that Nashville Hat Works company, all cases where cancel culture came into play beautifully, where they were doing very questionable things. Oh, right, Adam Kovic at Funhouse and somebody else at Funhouse, they're a side project of Rooster Teeth. I don't know if you've heard of Rooster Teeth.
Oh, of course.
Funhouse is like a side project of Rooster Teeth. There was like a couple people, Alana, Bruce Green, Adam Kovic, and a few others. Apparently Adam Kovic was like sexting somebody, and like he finished in their office, like finished beating off. They took a video of him doing that in his office, sent his butthole. I don't know if it was to a minor or an adult person, but he was basically like cheating on his wife or something. And I'm smiling about this because like I'm trying my best to explain it, but I don't think it's funny at all. But my whole point to that is like,
oh man,
that is a cancelable, because like people worked in that office and he was doing. I'm not gonna repeat the motion. I almost did. I sort of did. I'm sorry.
I just.
So I don't know if you've heard of that.
No, that is new to me. But that is just insane.
Yeah. That's bad. Who was that other person? There's somebody who got called out for, I don't know if it was like actually right or wrong, or like it was for sure or not. I can't remember their name. Oh, see, that's the bad part. It happened like 2 years ago. I can't remember who it was. Oh, JonTron. Didn't he make racist remarks when he was part of Game Grumps back in the day?
I think so. I think he did say a few race jokes. I don't think there were anything where he's like dropping hard R's, but I think that there were some like cultural jokes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think he did. I don't know if he apologized since then or not. I'm pretty sure he did, and if not, those of you who see this now or in the future, correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, there was a time he did that, and he seems fine off where he is. People still bring it up now and then, like we are right now. Not out of the fact to like dig up old information and do stuff like that, but just to discuss cancel culture as a whole, because older generations kind of see it as like, we've discussed this before the podcast started, comedy's dead because you're all a woke generation, or you all are too sensitive, which might be a topic for another podcast episode, which will be pre-recorded for another day, about the woke snowflake generation that we exist in, about why we're not exactly snowflakes, or like how you said, I think it was before during the podcast, because my memory is absolutely horrendous, about how, it's kind of ironic that we're called the snowflakes, but people from older generations are getting butthurt about certain things now.
Yeah, we're called snowflakes, but you call an old man a boomer and just watch him flip out, like...
Yeah, like, how is that an insult? You're born during, like, literally the defined baby boomer generation, I think, of, like, what, the 50s, 70s, something like that? Mm-hmm. So, like, how are you mad about that, but you can be transphobic, racist, xenophobic, homophobic, but we're the cancel culture snowflake woke generation.
The boomers destroyed our economy and then yelled at us of why we're doing terribly.
Yeah, right. But that's a subject for another day. We're not trying to pander for a whole hour, not trying to also like kill the next podcast content or anything like that. We do want to get to a solid hour time. This seems like this is just a pretty chill one. Of course, this is the first podcast. Not really a lot of people tune in. That's fine. Since it'll be pre-recorded, we might throw some gaming in there on there, just so you guys have something to watch other than our faces. Yay. But yeah, I might just throw some of my own gaming videos in there, just show some gaming content, like we could collab on a game. Because if we played a game and podcast and record at the same time, I guarantee you I'd be too distracted. He'd be taking over the whole podcast. I'd just be sitting here like, yeah, good point, man. Yeah. What else are we supposed to say, Herc? I have no idea. I fell off and died. Great. Next podcast. But no. Yeah, I'll do some gaming content, record just some, like, I don't know, mediocre Mirror's Edge or something like that, just for, just something to distract you guys while we talk, or to actually keep you guys engaged while we talk, because I totally get the switch of the niche from just straight gaming to people and blogs for this. I didn't expect a whole lot of people coming into this. I'm not mad. I'm not overall excited. Like, it's fine. This is just something me and him wanted to do together since we've been like best friends for what, since second grade. We graduated in 17. Oh god, this is gonna be hard. 10 years before 17 was 2007, so it's
was that like 2005?
So like 14, 15, 16 years almost. So yeah, we've known each other since
forever.
If you turn 16 today, we've known each other since you were born, pretty much. So yeah, it's kind of like, hey, I was like, I want to do a lot on my YouTube channel. I want to do a podcast. I want to play games. I want to do this and that. So I'm like, hey, got a hold of Helios. I'm like, do you want to start a podcast? He's like, yeah. And then here we are, like 2 months after the inception, I think. But yeah, we're gonna try to do these, or at least get these out every Sunday, maybe.
Yeah.
So we might actually have to take a Saturday to record, or because we're gonna be behind if we just do the Sundays. So we might have to take a Saturday and at least get one recorded, then do Sunday, get another one recorded. That way we at least have backlog for a week.
Yeah.
So we have things figured out. Like take 2 days to just have it all prepared. So if you guys are actually into that, we're going to put more gaming into it so I can put it back under the gaming niche so I can do that. And so it actually sticks to what I'm doing. Maybe putting it under people and blogs was not the smartest idea for the category, but usually you'd think a blog would go, or a podcast would go under people and blogs. But since I was told to stick to one niche, like one video category, that probably would have been a smarter idea, but since there's no gaming in this, that would have been clickbait. So this is the compromise for this one. So for the next one, I'm going to try my best to get some sort of gaming stuff put up or recorded, and then we'll just, do this again. Then I can compress the video file over like a webcam for the game footage, and there you go. I mean, I might just do like Mortal Kombat or something.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you guys even have any requests for things you'd want to watch, but yeah, honestly, I'm thinking like anything sandbox racing game, like something that wouldn't have to be like an actual story where it's just, you just mess around.
Definitely. I mean, the new game Biomutant's out, so that is something for consideration. It's a big sandbox, like world building game.
Oh yeah.
You can do farming and stuff on, like not farming, but farming for materials for the game. We'll get to that when we get there. That's kind of like just spitballing for anybody who sees this outside of the gaming niche, because again, put it outside the gaming niche because of the compromise we had to come to. This is supposed to the 1 hour mark. We're fine with stopping a bit early, I guess. That was my watch. Sorry. But yeah, thank you guys. If you tuned in this or you find this later on somehow, some way, before we put it back in the gaming niche with some gameplay, thank you for the OGs who stuck around for that or who showed up. There's nothing in the live chat. That's fine. I'm not nitpicking. That's great. That's awesome. I did see somebody liked it, so whoever that was, thank you very much. If you see this now or later, if we somehow get big as a podcast sometime down the road, fingers crossed, because I'd love to do some charity work with other people and give to charities. That'll do it. So thank you so much for watching the Pantheon podcast, episode 1 live stream. This was a huge stressor because we had a huge monologue plan, and he's with me on the whole. You have to scrap that. Just start with "Welcome to the podcast." Don't oversaturate it. So you're used to seeing my face. This is your boy Helios. This is your boy Hercules. Thank you for tuning in. We are out.